I love a cheesy intro.
Not a cheesy intro.
Yeah. I don't watch them back. Like I get to see it on screen on purpose
Uh,
because I kind of want to see how they turn out. So
right.
it makes me happy. But anyways, welcome everyone back to my 32 different fans, 32 different teams across the NFL, all the things. I'm super excited to talk to you because, well, you don't know this probably, but I actually, every game day that you all had this season, I watched the four of you like do a recap. It started showing up in my algorithm, and obviously you played the Steelers this year, so I think that's what the first time I kind of saw it. And
Okay.
so I've been enjoying watching like content in the background. Obviously, I'm not a Commanders fan, so there's not
Yeah.
much value I can add, but
Okay.
I love what you all are doing and everything. So I'm just excited to finally talk to you. And you are my hero of the whole series. I don't care who knows it. So there's that. Also, I would love for you to introduce yourself, and then we'll just get started about talking about the Commanders.
Okay. So my name is Louis T, host of the Louis T Network. I am a Commanders fan, but I do cover the entire NFL. I am live after every primetime game. I have a podcast, Louis T Network podcast, that I do. It's supposed to be 3 times a week, but most times it's 2 times a week. So um, the NFL is my passion. I love the NFL. I
Okay.
love everything about it. And I've been doing YouTube now for July 1st will be 13 years. So I've
Nice.
been in the game for quite some time, and I've had a blast doing what I
Okay.
do.
Have you always had the passion for the NFL, or did you grow that passion? Like, did it start there? Were you always all NFL? Like that was your thing, or did you dabble in both?
Oh, I love sports in general.
Okay.
I grew up playing basketball and baseball. I did not play football
Okay.
because my mom did not want me to get hurt. So she wouldn't let me play football. But my dad is a massive sports fan, and
Okay.
he watched the NFL. He watched basketball. Watched Major League Baseball. So I just grew up around sports a ton.
Okay.
And football was the one I just gravitated to the most. And
Yeah.
it just stuck. And it's been something that I've been obsessed with since probably I'd say 8 years old,
See, I'm
probably.
the same way. Obviously, I'm a woman, so I never I didn't play football.
Right.
But I was like that, like in middle school. I would
Yeah.
like, I always wanted to watch the games. And then in high school, I'm like, no, I need to be there at kickoff. And they were like,
Yeah.
it's not this serious. I'm like, it is this
Yeah.
serious.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so yeah. Okay.
It's funny. I ran into one of my preschool teachers when I was like, it's a small world. So one of my best friends ended up marrying my her niece.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was at a
Okay.
cookout and I ran into him like, oh my God, and so we started talking and she's like, you used to talk my head off about the Bulls, specifically Scottie Pippen, because that was my
Okay.
favorite player, and the Redskins. And I was 5 at that
That's
time, you
great.
know, and
That's, and
so
I love that.
it
Okay.
was it was a full circle moment. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy when we started talking and she was like, you used to talk my head off. And I'm like, I bet I did. I bet I did.
I love that. I love that. So that's cool. I love that everybody kind of has that story of like what connected them and then what stuck. So I love that. And then, so the other thing is the Commanders. Obviously, we know what the Commanders, Washington Reds, whatever you want to call them, we know what they were before this season. However, this season comes, they draft very well, get a new coach. Dan Quinn's there. A lot of excitement, but everybody still was kind of like, I'm not sure, right? And then you have the season that you have. How are you feeling as a Commanders fan? And then how would you describe your 2024 season?
um it was one of the most exhilarating roller coaster
Mm.
rides you could imagine. I talked to a Chiefs fan, and me and him had, he had been a viewer of my show for a while, and he told me, he said, look, enjoy this, man, because
Mm.
he experienced this with Patrick Mahomes. He was like,
Mm-hmm.
your 2024 season was our 2018 season, right? They went
Oh,
all the way
okay.
to the AFC
Lost Tom
championship game,
Brady.
lost to Tom Brady in
Yeah.
overtime. And he said the next year they won the Super Bowl. And he's like, you guys are experiencing euphoria right now. It's only going to get better. Just enjoy the ride. And when he said that, it clicked. And last year was just crazy because the expectations were they were low. I want to
Right.
say they were for some people they were high, right? But for most people, like we weren't totally excited initially with the Dan Quinn hire. We wanted Ben Johnson. Most fans did.
Yeah.
You get Dan Quinn, and we're thinking, oh God, we got this retread. But if you go all the way back to the beginning of last offseason and the hiring of Adam Peters, and you just go from there in the timeline, it's incredible the journey that we've been on as fans, because they put together this little group, this committee, they called it, advisory committee, to help them hire Adam Peters. We get Peters, and we're all stoked because he was the best GM available in the pool of GMs that we were picking from. So you're excited. You're like, wow, that doesn't happen to us. We don't get the best of anything, right? So then you go from there. You end up getting Dan Quinn, and you're like, I don't really know how I feel about this. And then you hear him speak. You see the purpose that he has, and you see that this is a guy that just won't be denied the second time around. And you're getting Andy Reid vibes here. Like, okay, first time he had some success, but he couldn't get over the hump. But this time he's going to knock it out of the park, and he's going to get that quarterback, and he's going to absolutely knock it out of the park. And so far, so good.
Yeah.
You get into the offseason, they make a bunch of moves. They turn the roster over, which is what happens when you get a new general manager. Turn the whole roster over. We had the highest turnover rate of any team in the NFL last year. Over, I think it was 57% of our roster was brand new. So you go into the season with all of these, new players. You have a draft that, you love, 9 players, all of those first and second day picks, right? We had 6 picks in the first 100. Yeah. And then you come away with those players. You look at the haul, you look at the offseason and free agency, you put it all together, but you're most excited about Jayden Daniels. You get to the preseason, and they finally name him the starter after going through the process. Get to the preseason, he looks solid, but we didn't see much of him, and so we didn't really know what to expect. We get to week 1, he was okay, he wasn't great, and we really don't know what to expect then. And then you get to week 2, it's much of the same. We don't score a touchdown, but we don't punt either.
Right. Yeah. It was a weird game. Yeah. Because you guys did it. We did it week 1. I think you all did it week 2. We only kicked field goals week 1.
Yeah. You beat the Falcons with 18-10 or something like that. It was crazy. And so you win that game, but he has the game-winning drive, right? And that was literally the start of the season that would become like the Jayden Daniels show, for lack of a better phrase. I call it the Jayden Daniels effect, everything that's transpiring now, because he's single-handedly turned this franchise around. But the game that really solidified his star was the next week on Monday Night Football versus Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are desperate. They're 0-2. Everybody's expecting them to get off the schneid in week 2, get their act together, get their first win of the season. We were being offered up essentially to them, and Jayden Daniels goes in there and sets the NFL, not rookie, the NFL record for the highest completion percentage with a minimum of 20 attempts.
Yeah.
And it's just this magnificent performance, 4th down conversions, deep balls. And then obviously the exclamation point on the 3rd and 7, when we only got 10 players on the field. We just called timeout, so you can't call another one. Guys are scrambling around. They don't know where to line up. He gets everyone lined up. They snap the ball. Because you only got 10 guys on the field, they send a blitz. Somebody's coming scot-free, ear holes him. He throws a deep ball, and it is the most perfectly placed deep ball one can imagine. And you're just looking at it, and you're like, oh my God.
We have something.
We hit a home run. We got a star. It's what we've been waiting for our entire lives. Like, I always used to say that as Commanders / Redskins / football team fans, we've been wandering in the quarterback wilderness, screaming for help for over 30 years. And it's just echoing and reverberating back to us. And nobody's listening. And you're like, help. Is anybody there?
Yeah. So if it makes you feel better, my dad he where he grew up, all he got were Redskins games back in the day.
Yeah.
And so my dad is a quasi, like, he still watches, But he's like, that's my team, but like, oh, we've been so bad for so long. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what we didn't even need a quarterback.
Right.
I'll never forget when he texted me and he goes, I think we got a quarterback.
Yeah. We all knew at the same time. It was that night where we realized, oh my God, we got us one.
Yeah.
And from that point on, he never let us down. I mean, there were games, the Steelers game for one, where he didn't play his best, right? Missed some opportunities, but he was still banged up from the injury. Obviously, we call it the Washington walk-off, aka the Bear Trap, aka the Noah's Ark, right? But the Hail Mary against the Bears was epic. We scored 40 points or more in 4 games last year. I don't know if we had done that combined in the last 25 years.
That's what's funny to me. And I always say this because I'm not an X's and O's. I'm not going to get on a board and draw up a play. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. I want to pay attention to all the other things. And because we played the Commanders, I looked at the team and I kind of do research. And there's 2 things I noticed that he does that I always say, if you can find your quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over, and if you can find you a quarterback that will do things ugly and make it look good, like do ugly things, but always come out on the positive more than you come out on the negative, the chances are your team is going to be pretty decent because the quarterback always touches the ball. So if he can do something fantastic ever so often when it's ugly, you need that because it's going to get ugly. Every guy doesn't know the play. Okay. Like you're going to have to improvise.
That's right.
So, so I saw him do that even against us. I was watching him do that. Obviously our defense, all the things he was doing it. That game was a different type of game, but I just remember thinking he doesn't turn the ball over and he does like the basic things right. And ugly things are always a little bit prettier because of him.
Yeah.
So
he took a roster last year that was, they called it recalibrating. They were recalibrating. They didn't like the word rebuilding. Was a taboo word for them. So they called it recalibrating. They said they were finding their north, right?
Oh, okay.
And he took a roster that we should have been 6, no more than 6 wins last season, max.
Fair. That's fair.
And doubled that total to 12. And it was really on the back of Jayden Daniels. There were so many games where if not for his heroics, if not for his steady hand, if not for him taking a busted play and running for 12 yards and a first down. I mean, the Eagles' second game is a great example. I mean, we're dead in the water. It's the end of the third quarter, final seconds of the third quarter. It's 4th and 11. We're at the Eagles, I'd say 41-yard line, maybe. Like that's a punt for most teams.
Yeah.
For what are we talking about? That's a punt, even though it's a 2-touchdown game. It's 27-13 at that time, if I'm not mistaken, in the game, or 27-14, excuse me. And that's a punt for most teams. And I just expected us to punt after the third down failed. And they just said, go for it. We had the highest 4th down conversion rate in NFL history last year, which is, again, there's just so many anomalies. And a lot of that was because of Jayden Daniels, his poise, his moxie, and his ability to use his legs, just phenomenal. And on that particular play, the Eagles, they dropped back into coverage and he saw an opening. He took off and he picks up about a gain of 23 on 4th and 11. We go on to score a touchdown. We obviously score another touchdown and take the lead, and then ultimately win the game with 6 seconds left because he took us down the field and throws a touchdown pass to Jamison Crowder. So he was just phenomenal. And I really felt like, and I talked about last year being, this roller coaster of emotions. So I had been begging for years, can we just get off to a fast start? Because our MO was start slow, middle of the season, get hot, late season collapse, right? That was our thing. So I was like, can we just start 7-2 for once? Can we just be good at the beginning of the year? Can we not be chasing, a bad record and you do all of this work, you win 5 in a row just to get back to 500? Like that's exhausting. So we finally did it, right? Here we are. We've got this tremendous record. We start off 7-2 and I'm excited. Everybody's excited. A lot of fans have PTSD. They're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because this isn't happening to us. I'm like, you guys, this is real. We're okay. And then you lose 3 straight. You guys
Yeah.
started that losing
We
streak.
started it. Yeah.
You lose to the Steelers, and you turn around quick Thursday night showdown with the Eagles for the first place. You lose that game. You then drop an inexplicable game to the Cowboys, and you're sitting there staring at a 3-game losing streak. The sky's falling. Fans are starting to say, "Here we go. We knew it. You know, we
We're
knew this
back.
was going to happen. This is the real Commanders
Yeah.
right here." And I'm like, "No, not this time." Bobby Wagner gives a passionate speech to the team. He doesn't say a lot, but he gives a passionate speech to the team and tells them that this is a great team. And, adversity is what's going to make us stronger. And we're going to get through this, and we're going to get to where we belong. And he told the media that. The media were asking all types of crazy questions. And he was like,
of course.
he said, "Look, come and ask me those same questions in 4 weeks. I bet you have a different answer." Right?
I know that's right.
5 weeks later, 5 straight wins. You're going into the playoffs, 12-5, 6 seed, and the rest is history. You hadn't won more than 10 games since 1991. Okay, check. You hadn't won a playoff game since 2005. Last time you won a playoff game, it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. So where
I love
did
that.
you return to the scene of the crime, because Tampa was our week 1 opponent this year, and they beat us pretty good. And you return to the scene of the crime. You pull off the caution tape. You erase the chalk outline. And you get a little measure of revenge, right? So you get your first playoff win since 2005, check. And you haven't been to the NFC Championship game since 1991. Nobody's giving you a chance. That's the number 1 seed. You're 8.5-point underdogs on the road. And you go up there and you force 5 turnovers.
You bully them.
45. Yeah, you put up 45 points. There was a stretch in the regular season where we didn't punt for almost 3 weeks.
No, I know. I was. That's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, if people understood how obsessive my football stuff gets, like you would, like some of the things I know, I should never know. But that's one of them where I'm just like, and I'm telling you, I think at one point Jayden Daniels, I think at one point had like 2 turnovers through like week 9 or something stupid that you're just like, that's not true. And I checked the stat 9 times because I'm like, that's not true, is it?
Yeah,
it was true.
Yeah, no, he had an interception he threw against Cleveland and one against Arizona. I think
that was it.
Yeah, he didn't fumble really at all last year.
No, and that stat, it just continued to stick with me. And I said, like, that's how you win playoff games. Obviously, against the Eagles, the team forgot about the fumble and turnover thing. But but that's like how you win games. So having said all of that, what song do you think like represents the 2024 season?
Boy, I mean, I was singing a lot of songs last year. There were a ton of songs, but I know one song I used to always sing to the fan base before we got Jayden Daniels.
Okay.
Was Sam Cooke's "A Change Gonna Come," right? I used to always sing that to them because I'm like, I'm telling y'all, hang in there. Hang in there. I know a change gonna come. Trust me, right? So, but I mean, I was singing Tupac last year. Ain't nothing but a Jayden party. It was a celebration last year.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, I would watch you all. Like y'all were like, and I think at one point you all started to believe.
Yes.
Because sometimes you believe and you're kind of like, yeah, I believe we're good. But there was at one point where it was like the vibe changed, and y'all were like, we don't care who we play in the playoffs. I was like, I know that's right.
Yeah. We got to a point where we started smelling ourselves because when you got a quarterback like Jayden Daniels, you think anything is possible.
Yeah.
And you go into Tampa and he puts together that game-winning drive when you had to have it. They call his number on 3rd down and goal to kind of pretty much put the game away. Kalijah Kancey had been killing us the entire game. He comes through scot-free. And all he could grab was a towel. Stiff arm, gets the 1st down. We're able to take knees, line it up for our kicker, who tried his best to miss, but it was fate, right? That was already predetermined that we were moving on to the divisional round. And so it clanks off the upright and through, and everybody almost had a heart attack. I had a watch party for that game. And we were at the party, and we were so loud you couldn't hear the TV. So we're watching it. And I jump in the air because it's a 30-something yard field goal. There's no way he's missing this. I'm jumping in the air, and then that thing's hooking, and it's tailing, and it's tailing.
Yes,
and it hits the pole, and I drop down to my knees, and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. And then it goes through. And like, we don't know it went through because we can't hear Mike Tirico say, and they doinked their way to the divisional. We can't hear that. So we're waiting to see what happens. And we see all of our players running the field.
Right, because you can't tell. Yeah, because you can't tell. You're right. When you watch it, you just can't tell.
Yeah, you can't
tell.
know
where the ball doinks to. Yeah.
Right. It was insane. So
yeah.
Once we beat Detroit, we were ready for the world. Like,
yeah.
The Eagles, what? We already beat them. Bring them on.
Yeah.
Like,
who cares about those guys?
Yeah, that didn't.
Except for the holding on to the football part.
Yeah, that part.
That's okay. Yeah, that's okay. So 2024 ended. 2025 begins technically, right? Mm-hmm. Free agency, all of that. Was there any moves that you really loved that you were like, yes, thank you for this? Like now we know we have our guy. We know we have our quarterback. Now we're going to build around him and kind of shore up some things. How do you feel like you all did in free agency before the draft?
It was the trades in particular were phenomenal, right? Okay. You hate giving up draft capital because that's an opportunity to get young, cheap labor and add that to your roster. And so, yeah, you hate having to give up draft capital, but at the same time, you're getting proven commodities on a team that went to the NFC Championship game and thinks that they're a couple pieces away from getting over the hump. And one of the things that we struggled with last year was protecting Jayden Daniels. Like,
offensive line.
You really don't realize, like, the offensive line wasn't terrible. I don't want to sit here and act as if we had one of the worst offensive lines in the league because we didn't. But in that NFC Championship game, he was under duress. He wasn't able to set his feet. And so part of the problem with our offense at times when it wasn't as successful, two times against Dallas, 2 times against Philadelphia, was the pressure. We couldn't protect him adequately. And to go get a guy like Laramie Tunsil, who's one of the best tackles in football. And I said after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I did a video and I asked the question, I said, what are 4 things? Or I just said, what are some things that we can do? And I had a list of 4 things. And I think the thing at the second to the top, so the second most necessary change that needed to be made is we needed to add more guys that could do something with the football in their hands and take some of the pressure off of Jayden Daniels, because so much of our offense, if you watched us last year, it was 12 plays. It was 13 play drive. It was 11 play drive, right? Well, we'd eat up a bunch of clock. But when you go 14 plays and you have to convert on 4th down twice, that's not sustainable. Like, we did that last year. You can't bank on us doing that again this year. Like,
I agree.
That's not something that you want to continue to have to do year in and year out. So the Eagles play a cover 4, right? So it's a 4 high shell where you've got 4 defenders deeper than the deepest. They're not letting anything get behind them. They're keeping everything underneath. And with that kind of defense, that Vic Fangio defense, it's very disciplined. They play a lot of great zone coverage underneath. They're not letting you get deep. So what you have to be able to do, because you're not going to be able to get a ton of chunk plays over the top, is you got to hit a guy and he's got to be able to run after the catch. Like Terry McLaurin in the playoff game against the Eagles, caught a slant, broke a tackle, scored a touchdown. That's what you got to do against Philadelphia, or else you're going to be on that 13-play drive, and all it takes is for one guy to forget to hold on to the ball, right? And now you fumbled after a successful drive. You get nothing out of it. We had a drive that was 17 plays against Philadelphia to start that game, and ended up. It was
crazy. And the time of possession. So I did like a mini series where I was like tackling football, and I was talking about the different games, and I was like, being able to run the football in time of possession impacts everything else. Like, if you can do that, then and that again, didn't turn the ball over, Jayden Daniels, sustained long drives. It's like the trick to winning football, and they did all of that. It's just holding on to the football.
It's tough. It's tough to sustain that, and you want chunk plays, right? Yeah. And Deebo Samuel is a guy with the offense that we run to just get in his hands. He can do a lot of things with the football. Just get it to him. And so that was a big upgrade. We didn't have a true number 2 wide receiver. And Deebo isn't your traditional, 1,100 yard, 82 catch wide receiver. But when you put together all the things that he does, he'll get you 920 yards receiving and another 275, rushing. And when you look up, he's got, 1,200 yards, all purpose,
Yeah.
8 touchdowns. And that's the kind of guy that's going to really help bolster this offense. So you love those moves. I look, our 4th round pick, Jalen Lane, receiver out of Virginia Tech. I just wanted a punt returner. I've been fiending for a punt returner, someone that can be dynamic in the special teams game for us. We had a guy, DeAndre Carter, back in 2021. I believe 2022 was his last year in Washington, if I'm not mistaken, and they just let him walk. For no reason. Like, they just let him walk. They didn't re-sign him, and they didn't have a plan after he left. And so it might have even been 2021. And we haven't really had a return man since. And so it is so refreshing that this group, and that we're in such good hands between general manager, head coach, and our quarterback. We're in such an ownership too. I mean, can't forget about ownership. They saved us. They rescued us.
I was gonna say they're there because they want to be there too. That's the other thing.
Yes, the environment has done a complete 180. They've changed that environment and made it a place where guys want to be. And
I love that. Was there any draft picks that you kind of were like, I don't get it, but okay, maybe?
Not really. I mean, I think most fans wanted an edge rusher at some point in the draft, because that's the one position that we feel like we don't necessarily have a player that we feel is dynamic at that particular spot. And we expected to draft one at some point, but I love that they didn't force the issue. If a guy that they loved wasn't at that selection, we're not going to reach. That's what our last group used to do. That's what Ronald Rivera and company used to do. And that's why our last 4 first-round picks prior to this year are no longer on the roster, right? Because they reached for guys. Instead of saying we're going to take the best player available on our board, irregardless of position, no, we're going to take a player because we have a need there.
Right.
And so
the difference between being a good team and a team that's just always behind the 8 ball.
That's right.
So what is your realistic expectation then? What are you all are contenders. I don't think anybody would disagree with the fact that you're contenders. What is the next, what is it this year? Like, what are you going to be looking for this year? Are you aiming for like a division title? Because I think in the NFC East, it's like no team has ever hasn't won it back to back in like 20 something seasons or something like.
Is that right? 04, correct.
Okay, yeah. Another random thing. I just know. I don't know.
that's your dad right there. That's probably more.
Yeah, it's like this random thing. So, how do you feel about that? Like, what are you hoping? If we're having the same conversation at this time next year, what would you hope to be talking about in terms of like the Commanders and what they're going to do this year or this coming year?
I mean, you hope we're raising a banner. I mean, that's the goal.
I want to make sure you're there, though. Some fans are like, we're good, but I don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying?
When you have one of them ones, as I call Jayden Daniels, he's one of them ones. Okay. When you have one of those guys, you got a shot every year. Your window is infinitely open as long as he's your quarterback. We watched him take an inferior roster to the NFC Championship game. Now, granted, there's tape on him now and teams are going to make adjustments. Can we make the adjustment to the adjustment, right? I don't doubt that this guy's a workaholic. This guy is a film rat. He's a gym rat. He's going to be prepared. This group that's around him, they're going to be prepared. And I love the fact that we have Cliff Kingsbury coming back for a second year as the offensive coordinator, because there was a little bit of a period there where we thought, man, we might lose Cliff, one and done for him because of the success of Jayden Daniels. He's back. We got everybody back in tow. We kept all of the guys around him, quarterbacks, coach, all of that stuff. So the scene is set. They've upgraded the roster. It's a better team than it was a season ago. The schedule's tougher, obviously, but that's what you want to be the man. You got to beat the man, right?
Yeah.
So that's the par for course, right? You got to be able to beat good teams. As our coach says, DQ always loves to say, you want to be a heavy hitter, you got to beat heavy hitters, right? So you got to be prepared to go through those teams. And I'll just look at this. The division is always up for grabs because, as you mentioned, no one has won it consecutive years since 03, 04. So, yes, we are absolutely in the discussion for the division title. I'm expecting us to be right there neck and neck with the Eagles and possibly the Cowboys. And, yeah, I'm looking at the Super Bowl. Like, there's nowhere else to go but up. Like, and the only place to go from the NFC Championship game is to the Super Bowl. Like, it's a gift and a curse because last year was so good and you got so far that if you don't make it back to that point, is it a failure if you get to the
Yeah.
divisional round and don't make it to the?
I think it depends on how it goes, right? I
Yeah,
think it depends on the why and the season and all the
yeah,
different knickknacks. But
yeah.
or too, sometimes other teams just kind of come in and nobody saw. Like, I don't think anybody predicted the Minnesota Vikings to be
Nobody,
as good as they were last year. So it's
nobody.
like somebody this year is probably going to come in and be that person. And so
Yep,
you just have to kind of play it. That's the NFL though. You just
yep,
never know. Like, it's the beauty of it. There's always
yep.
a team where you're like, who are those guys?
That's right.
So I'm actually curious to know, is there any position group or any one player on the team that you feel like doesn't get a lot of attention? They're like underappreciated, under whatever. They just get in there, do the job, work, grind, but nobody ever really mentions them, but like you need them, or position group that you feel that way about.
Oh, without question, on our team, it's the tight end position. I don't
Okay.
think they get enough credit for what they do. Look, our tight ends aren't flashy, and Zach Ertz was phenomenal. He was our
Mm,
second leading receiver last year. He was
yeah.
Jayden's go-to guy on most fourth downs, and specifically in the red zone when he needed a big play, like you saw in the Atlanta Falcons game in overtime for the game-winning touchdown.
What a
So,
great game that was, though. Oh my
wasn't it?
gosh.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it? And what a great catch by Ertz to send us
Yeah.
to the postseason. Like, he was
Yeah.
so good for us last year. He was one of the few guys that showed up in that NFC Championship game. I think he had 11 catches for 107 yards or something like that in
Did
that
he
game.
used to play for the Eagles?
He did. He used to play for
Okay.
the Eagles for a very
Okay.
long time. Won a Super Bowl with the Eagles as well.
Okay, that's what I thought.
So
Okay, okay. I was like, okay, got it.
yeah.
Because
So
I remember thinking like he's showing out. Okay,
yeah,
he's
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
he's like,
That was his second time being back in Philadelphia since he had left. So
got it. Okay,
the regular season Thursday night game was his first time being back at the link since he had left. So
got it.
he had gotten all the nostalgia and all the warm and fuzzies out of the way, and he was ready to
Yeah,
go to work that second time.
ready to go.
And
I love it.
that tight end group doesn't get enough credit for what they bring to the table. Like, we want the flashy, athletic, mismatched tight end that doesn't exist on our roster right now. But John Bates he just got a 3-year, $21 million contract extension
Okay,
this offseason. And a lot of the fans didn't see it coming. And I warned them during the season, like, we're going to re-sign John Bates. He's one of, if not the best blocking tight end in the league, and they rewarded him for being that. And
I love it.
so the tight end group, I think, in Washington doesn't get enough credit. And we drafted a guy, Ben Sinnott, in the second round last year. He didn't do a lot from a
Vincent, where did he
pass,
come from?
K-State.
Ah,
So
got it. Okay,
he didn't do a lot from a pass catching standpoint. Only 5 catches, 27 yards, 1 touchdown last year. But he's a guy that I think has a chance to have this massive sophomore jump, if you will, second year
yeah,
leap. And he blocked really well at times last year. I think he ran out of gas as the season progressed, and then he was dealing with an
as it
injury.
does with most rookies.
Right. But I think that group doesn't get enough credit for what they were able to do last year and what they mean to this team.
Okay. Do you have a hot take? Being a Commanders fan, that the fan base is kind of like, stop saying that. Stop saying that. Like, that you feel very passionately about.
I don't think they're going to tell me to stop saying it, but I think Jayden Daniels will be squarely in the mix for league MVP this year.
Okay.
Right
I like
now, I
that.
think he has the 6th or 5th best odds.
It's actually not bad.
It's not.
That's not bad at all.
Look, I've never seen this in my lifetime. Okay.
Yeah.
So last time a Redskin player won league MVP, I think you got to go all the way back to 83, I believe. Joe Theismann, I believe, won it in
Wow.
83.
Okay.
So it's been a very, very long time
Yeah.
since we have had anybody even be remotely close to that conversation. So I just believe that this kid he's different. And I said this before the schedule came out. I told everybody, I said, the league, I just had this feeling because I've been watching how the league has moved when it comes to the Commanders. Roger Goodell was just in Washington 2 weeks in a row. 1 week he was there to help, welcome DC, the Commanders back to DC, to the RFK site. Comes back the next week to tell us, oh, you guys are getting a draft in 2027, right? So Speaking of which, I
We're
think you
shining
guys
the
are getting
light.
you
We're
guys are
getting it
getting the
next
draft in
year.
26, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and you're going to get your quarterback in 2026. Look at you. Maybe you could be sitting
Don't
here having
don't
that
trigger
conversation.
me. Do not
Yes.
trigger me right now. Do not
You'll be getting
trigger
your
me.
quarterback next year. You guys got 12 picks. You're loading
Oh
up
my
to make sure you can go get your guy. It's going to be awesome for you guys next year. I'm happy for you. But all of this is taking place. And I said, Roger Goodell is going to, in the league, is going to push Jayden Daniels to be the face of the NFC to parallel Patrick Mahomes in the AFC, right? AFC is loaded with all these quarterbacks. There's no one in the NFC, right? There's no face of that conference. They're pushing Jayden Daniels. And when you look at what they've done with 8 standalone games, I call them primetime games, but standalone games, 8 of them for the Commanders. Only 3 teams in the league have 8. Dallas, because they're Dallas, right? They're America's team. So they got 8. The Chiefs have 8 and the Commanders have 8. And so to me, that is a sign that we haven't had 8 standalone games ever in our franchise's history.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I can see that.
This is monumental. And now he's got to take this opportunity that they're giving him and run with it. And so I think
I wanted the opposite. Sorry, I'm sorry. Now I'm triggered. I wanted the opposite for the Steelers. I'm like, dear God, please don't give us a lot of time. Let us give us some 12s, give us some 3s, but please. And so listen. I'm a spoiled, privileged Steelers fan. Okay. Yes. I get all the perks, all the hoopla. I've seen Super Bowls. I've seen all the things. I've seen great defenses, great quarterbacks, all the positivity things. I also know where we're at right now. Let's start acting like it and let's allow other people to step in so we can take care of our crap. It's like I tell I'm like, we need to put our heads down and go to work. That's the stage we're in right now. And it's okay. It's okay. So anyways, but I'm excited to see. And you're right. I was looking at the schedule too, and I was like, okay, cool. We're seeing some new faces. Mm-hmm. It's that time. It's time for kind of that next transition. Mm-hmm. And I hope, that listen, you guys are in the NFC, so you guys can dominate that all you want to. And I wouldn't care one leg.
Right. Till it affects you, right? Till you get to the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. If it's in the Super Bowl, at that I always say, do I want to win the Super Bowl every time? Absolutely. Yeah. But even when we lost to Green Bay, I was like, this sucks, but it's the Super Bowl. Right. It sucked, but I still was like, you know what though? What can I complain about this year? We went to the freaking Super Bowl. Yeah. So anyways, and
that's
fumbling.
A great
Stop
perspective.
fumbling. Yeah, stop fumbling, Mendenhall. But anyways, that
changed that whole game.
I'm totally over it.
You're not, but okay.
So if you were GM for a day, sounds like you like everything that's going on, but what move would you make if you were GM for one day? What would be the first move that you would make?
Right now?
Yeah.
I would go get us an edge rusher. So there's guys
just go ahead and say the name because you're gonna go ahead and say the name.
I would get Sedarius Smith.
You would get Smith. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody else is clamoring for
Hendrickson. Yeah, I wouldn't see. So the problem with trading, you gotta Cincinnati's not gonna give him away, right?
True.
And they made it so because they gave him permission to seek a trade, something that they rarely do, right?
Yeah.
Cincinnati's they're a weird group.
Yeah,
right?
They are.
They march to the beat of their own drum. I know you know, right? As a family member, you know them very intimately. But they march to the beat of their own drum. I've watched them do this before with others like Carson Palmer, right? Where they say, you don't want to play, take your ball and go home, right? But you're not playing for anyone else.
They tried to do it to Joe Burrow.
Yes. And so they're a different group. And so they gave him permission to seek a trade because in their words, he was a good soldier and he didn't make this a public dispute, right? He kept quiet, kept his head down, worked. And so their reward to him was you can seek a trade. But what they did was they made the price so egregious that no one was going to make that deal. They knew what they were doing because he's on a very cheap deal, right? Yes. That last year is ridiculously cheap to the point where people are actually questioning, why did you even sign that deal, right? But in his mind, at that time, that money was good for where he was in his career, where the market was at that time. Obviously, the further back you sign a deal, which is why people say get the deal done early, then it looks like a steal by the time you get to the third year of that deal, the market is, gone way past the deal that you signed. But he deserves a pay raise. The problem is the Bengals are setting the price at this ridiculous mark where nobody's going to reach it. And then he's 31 years old. He'll be 31 in December. So if you're trading for him, how many more years of this peak prime Trey Hendrickson are you going to get?
Fair.
And you have to ask yourself, we already gave up our second round pick in 2026 for Larry.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true, because for Tunsil.
So we don't have the capital to just be thrown. Like somebody was like, give up a 27 second and Brian Robinson. First of all, the Bengals don't want Brian Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Fans love giving away stuff they no longer want, right? That they want to discard.
And for somebody else is going to want it too.
Exactly. And then a 27 second. And I'm like, you can't keep giving away second round picks.
No.
We already got one, or gave away one in 2026.
Yeah.
Gave away a third in 2025 for Marshawn Lattimore. Like, I love it because Lattimore is going to be here for multiple years. I have no issues with that. Tunsil's going to be in Washington for many years. Yep. I don't have any issues with that. I don't know how long you're actually going to get Trey Hendrickson.
That's fair.
Playing at a high level. So I wouldn't.
So you would pivot. And he, Smith, he's not anywhere right now, is he?
No, he's a free agent.
Has he let go of the Lions?
Yep.
Or the Lions didn't re-sign him.
They just didn't re-sign him. Yep. His contract was up. They just
That's actually a good pick. Then he's probably a great option. That's actually, I don't know what the Lions are thinking with that one. But anyways, so the final 4 questions is kind of like a lightning round. So it's like overtime, 4 downs, It was really cool when I put it together. And now every time I say it, I'm like, that is so freaking cheesy, but whatever. But the first question is, which team in your division or do you love to hate the most and why?
Oh, it's the Eagles, without question. They have the most obnoxious fan base I've ever experienced in my life. And there's so many layers to this, but it's the Eagles fans without question. The Eagles fans make us hate the Eagles tenfold.
Okay, I respect it. What is one thing you would change about the Commanders as an organization? So I've heard you talk about how great you feel leadership is doing. I know there's a new stadium in the works at a place where I think people love, is what I'm hearing. So is there anything with like uniforms or game day experience, or I don't know, just anything that you might change?
Yeah, it would, if it be anything, it'd be uniforms. Now, so some of what we have going on now, it has grown on me, but I don't love our white uniforms. I don't.
Oh, really?
I don't. The black ones are fine. The burgundy ones are fine. I don't love the white uniforms.
Interesting. Okay.
It's not. It doesn't uphold the tradition of what we are.
Oh, are you a traditionalist?
Partially.
Okay, fair.
Not wholly.
So, okay, fair. I'm a Texas fan. Obviously, Steelers have traditions too. And sometimes I'm like, let's just step out of the box. And they're like, no, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
yeah. Like they'll never tweak your jerseys, right? Your jerseys are just
ever. It's like burnt orange, period.
Yeah. So with us, I don't mind them stepping out of the box because what I learned over the last 5 years is that in order to have an alternate jersey of a different color, it has to be in one of your primary jerseys.
Yes.
Right. So that's why that white jersey has like a little bit of black in it, because if we didn't have that there, you wouldn't be able to wear all black uniforms.
Got it.
I get the premise, but a lot of fans want to go back to the traditional, we call them championship unis, the championship whites. And I think what they're going to ultimately do, so this would take care of that, is they're going to introduce the championship whites as a throwback, right?
Okay.
As an alternate throwback that we could wear maybe once or twice a year. So
listen, respectfully, y'all don't need to go back. Honestly, y'all should, whatever the tradition was last year, that should be it. That's the new tradition. Yeah. Winning. These are the jerseys.
That's kind of like with the name, right? Like,
yes, this is the new. This is it.
And people will. They'll get on board once you start winning.
Yeah, that's it. And then my third question is, if you could swap a player from your rival, you could do somebody in your division and then player swap with somebody on your team. Who would you player swap with?
Ooh, so do they have to play the same position?
Nope.
So I could give them.
We're gonna live in a fantasy world, starter for starter. Okay, that's the only rule.
I'm about to say.
Starter
so be a garbage guy on the bench.
No, starter for starter in a fantasy world. Positions doesn't matter.
All right. Starter for starter. Okay. I would take from, I already know the player I would take. I'm just trying to figure out who I would give them in return. So technically right now, Nick Allegretti technically is a starter. So this might be cheating because he probably won't start this year, but technically he's a starter right now. So I would give the Dallas Cowboys, and he's done nothing wrong. He's a good player, everything. You know what? Because I can't think of anybody else that I would want to give away, like willingly. So I'd give them Nick Allegretti, good football player, capable of starting, did last year, was excellent for us. But I want Micah Parsons. Give me Micah Parsons. You can have Nick Allegretti. We'll call it even, right? So that's the guy that I would take in the division. He's a monster. He impacts.
That's fair. I love that. And then the very last question is, describe your fan base in 3 words.
3 words. Does it have to be 3 words? Could it be 2 words?
Listen, I'm just the facilitator of this. This is your episode.
I will say rabid with PTSD. So that's the best I can do. This is a great fan base. They've been reignited and awakened by Jayden Daniels, ownership, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, the whole 9 yards, but they still suffer from PTSD. And until we win something of substance, there's still people like, I tried to warn them that, hey, this is coming. The schedule is going to reinforce, confirm that we are the new kids on the block. Like we're relevant. Like we're relevant again, guys. They still didn't want to believe. Then the schedule comes out. They're like, oh my God, now they're complaining. What happened to our 1 o'clock games?
That's me. And that's what I'm saying.
This is a part of being good, guys. Like that's what I'm saying. This you can tell they haven't been here before.
You got to learn how to be good. Listen, it is. It's a skill. You have to learn. That's why with the Steelers, I'm like, let us pull back. You can have it all. We'll do 12 o'clocks. Hey, we got it. We'll hold it down for everybody. Don't even worry. So anyways, well, that was all I have for you. I like to end on you. So anything else that you want to say at the end of this? I just want to say, though, I will have all of your information in the description. So if anybody wants to find you, whatever, they can just go to the description box and click on it. So that will be there. And then the other thing is I just want to thank you. You know how you stepped in and saved the day. I don't need to go into a lot of details. That is why you will be my hero. I don't care what anybody has to say about it. So I very much appreciate you for showing up and doing all the things. So thank you for that. And then the last thing I want to say is, thank you for also bringing like informed content, because I think that there's some teams whenever they're transitioning from being like, nobody's talking about them to everybody's talking about them, there's still like grassroots content creators that like really know what's going on. They're not just doing it because the team's hot. And so like, I just appreciate your perspective, because I think some people get to the like fanny, like, woo, we're so great. And you still keep it very practical. You're a fan, but it's still practical. And so just know I from a distance, I watch and I admire and I love it. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. I mean, that's what I set out to do when I started my channel. I always tell people I'm an NFL fan first. You know, I'm a Commanders fan, but I'm an NFL fan first. We've been awful for years. I'm still going to watch. I know fans that if it's not Commanders, they're not watching. They don't care, right? And a lot of fans are like that. I'm not upset at fans who only watch their team. Yeah. But it's hard to have realistic and logical conversations, rational conversations with people if you don't watch, right? Yes. So I am a fan of all 32 teams in the NFL in terms of just watching the game. And that's why I can talk to you about your Steelers. I know your Steelers, not as well as you do, obviously, because you follow the minutia, the day-to-day, everything. But I know the quarterback is the trigger. I do know that, right? So
you know what's like? Okay, this isn't about them. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, look, hey, it's okay. You have to let it out.
You know what?
You have to don't keep it pent up.
I have other issues though. Like my issue isn't even the quarterback anymore, because I want to understand why the hell our defense is like getting worse as the season progresses, and why our defensive coordinator does nothing about it, and why the hell we hired Arthur Smith. So that has nothing to do with the quarterback. That has everything to do with just like, what are we doing?
Those are real questions, by the way. I actually like Arthur Smith, but I don't know if that's a Tomlin influence. It just feels like since Bruce Arians, really, maybe even Todd Haley
It's
to a lesser
just
degree, it's gotten worse
thank
every
you.
year.
Like,
So I don't really know
I
if it's like the
I
common
know.
denominator is Mike Tomlin,
And
right?
Mike Tomlin, listen, I hear you. I know I'm feeling it. Every video I'm making lately as a Steelers fan, like I'm feeling myself kind of be like, bro,
Yeah,
this is you.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah,
anyways,
yeah.
so yeah. So, but
I
I'm like you too. I watch all teams. All
yeah,
that's why I like doing the series. I like to watch football,
yeah,
and then I want to look at what somebody's doing. Like after the Super Bowl, I remember I tweeted. I was like, "Oh, now I know what the Steelers need. Now I
mhm,
get it. We need
yeah,
a pass rush. We need a running back. We need
yeah,
a quarterback. We need coaches that will call
that's
plays.
right.
We need coaches." Like,
Yeah. That's what the playoffs are for, right?
yeah.
You see the best of the best that the league has to
Yep.
offer, and you say, okay, we don't have that. Okay, we
Nope.
can't do that. All right.
Nope.
We never do that, right?
Never.
And so you're like, okay, now I'm getting a feel for what we
Yeah.
need. Are they gonna do it? Probably
No.
not, right?
No.
But I can see it, I can visualize why we're
Yeah.
not in that space, right? So
Correct. That's where I'm at.
yeah.
Anyways, well, I appreciate you. We could do this all day long, but I appreciate you. And I'm sure I'll talk to you again about
Yeah,
something else, even if I'm just like, I just need a vent. Here it is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
I'm here. My
anyways,
my ear is open.
thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Not at all. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.